Yes, I was born hard of hearing, but like for me, it just was a thing. But then when I first started Wonder Woman Tech, my brand designer was a CODA or is a CODA, child of deaf adults. And then she actually was, Bethany, was actually very instrumental in like helping me understand the larger challenges that deaf and hard of hearing humans have in the workforce and in tech and in the arts, media.
That room, that belonging room for the kids, students. So I'm curious again. So you build it coming from that community yourself. Now, what did you learn about other rooms that might be calling themselves accessible?
Yeah. Well, first of all, yes, I was born hard of hearing, but like for me, it just was a thing. As I mentioned in New Mexico, like I just lived with it. Like if I asked people to repeat themselves, they would roll their eyes and either repeat themselves or not. Like it was my reality. I didn't know anything differently. But then when I first started Wonder Woman Tech, my brand designer was a CODA or is a CODA, child of deaf adults. And then she actually was, Bethany, was actually very instrumental in like helping me understand the larger challenges that deaf and hard of hearing humans have in the workforce and in tech and in the arts, media. And so learning more about this community that I didn't feel part of. I didn't feel part of it until I started curating spaces for deaf and hard of hearing humans in my work. And so I, as I mentioned earlier, I had a town hall in my living room where I asked some of Bethany's friends and some of my speakers and stuff. We had like multiple sessions for deaf and tech and deaf and media at our Wonder Woman Tech conferences over the years. And so I invited them over and wanted to learn from them. Well, one of the biggest things that came out of these conversations was deaf humans were perceived as also not being intelligent.
Yeah.
Or that saying deaf and dumb from the 50s, 60s, like that terminology came from because these humans have a different ability to communicate that clearly they have lack of comprehension. And I cried when I learned that because I was like, what? And that was another reason why I was like, I'm doubling down on this because there are some like intelligent, amazing humans, right? And so when I started looking at the workforce and talking to like Amazon or like my Fortune 500 company partners about hiring deaf talent, one thing I learned was they were not set up for hiring. Like they were more apt to hire someone with a physical disability or maybe even who was neurodiverse on the spectrum than they were for deaf humans. Still to this day.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
So accessibility, I don't think that there's really a lot of companies that are truly accessible and set up in a way that allows them to hire talent from all backgrounds and all like walks of life. I don't think that there is a company that's not already like deaf founded or deaf inclusive, right? Like that is set up for that kind of workforce environment.
Yes. There is a lot of data I cannot, like, of my mind, and the data probably also changing, but
I don't think any of my deaf innovators were ever hired at any of our career fairs. I mean, there was the other sad truth about all this is like I never had a single sponsor for my ASL for interpreting. Never. I had to use my CODA friends. They did it. Volunteer. And I even tried to intentionally like, hey, like these humans matter. But no, we never had a single sponsor in 10 years. And that said something to me. You know, it frustrated me as being part of the community, but it also frustrated me that I had this community that I worked hard to build and to build trust in me and Wonder Woman Tech get frustrated with me because we didn't have the right tools. Sometimes they couldn't go to all the sessions that we produced. Even our virtual sessions were difficult for them to attend to that were not CC closed captioned, or we didn't have interpreters for them. So like, yeah, I would say like one of the most marginalized communities for sure. I watch it, I see it, and I have the honor to be on the board for RIT, you know, Rochester Institute for Technology, and their deaf and hard of hearing community specifically.
For
And so,
technology, correct?
yes, and I hire they're so short staffed that I end up overloaded with some of their deaf students as interns because they don't have anywhere to place them.
Right.
And so I end up, a lot of them are graphic designers, web designers. And so, yeah, and so then I'm overwhelmed because I say yes because I'm one of the few providers that will take on these amazingly talented students. So, yeah.
So, thank you for again making sure that this community getting highlight.
Yeah. And now, just to say, like, it's easier than ever to hire deaf talent in terms of, like, especially from a remote place, because you do have closed caption on Zoom and all of these digital tools. So I invite people to think about how they're going to add to their workforce, take on some of these students at RIT, and enrich their lives in a meaningful way.